Hello, this is Dane Cialino, and welcome to our class on CaseMap fact chronologies, report books, witness preparation, and brief writing. In our past lectures, we've focused on the document tables, on the persons tables, and to some extent on the fact table and issues table. This lecture brings everything together and focuses principally on the queen bee of all the tables, namely the fact table. But of course, it does rely upon the other tables, the issues tables, the document tables, the persons table, this lecture really brings together, is really the kind of a capstone CaseMap lecture in the sense that all that we've discussed is now relevant, and we'll show you in this lecture how to use that kind of powerful fact chronicling functionality of CaseMap to do specific tasks that you as a lawyer will be called upon to do in your practice. Namely, to prepare a chronology for the case, to share information with your client by generating a report book, to get ready for witness examinations, and by witness examinations I mean witness depositions and witness examinations at trial, cross-examinations, direct examinations. And finally, using CaseMap in conjunction with TextMap, another LexisNexis product, to do brief writing. And the powerful functionality of CaseMap in this area comes from its ability to sort and filter, mostly filter, away extraneous information. And by extraneous, I don't mean irrelevant, because it wouldn't be on your CaseMap, in your CaseMap file if it were irrelevant, but irrelevant for present purposes. By present purposes, I mean either writing this particular issue of the brief or preparing for an examination of that particular witness. Okay, now let's talk about using CaseMap to generate reports about your case and chronologies. Obviously, one of the most important functions of CaseMap relates to organizing your facts and letting you see factually what your case is all about. Now, in previous lectures, of course, we've talked about managing documents, producing documents, Bates numbering documents. All of that functionality is very important in CaseMap. But at the end of the day, as we've talked about many times before, cases are about facts. And organizing those facts is really at the heart of what CaseMap is all about. As we've said before, the CaseMap queen bee table is the fact table. The document table, the other tables, simply service that table. So getting your fact table right and getting it to have a comprehensive and well-sourced listing of all of the facts in your case is important. Well, what we're going to talk about now, of course, deals with manipulating the fact table. We're going to start with this assumption, and that assumption is that you have already done a pretty good job organizing or populating the fact table within CaseMap. By populating the fact table, I mean you've mined documents, you have talked to witnesses, and when you get those atoms of your case, those nuggets from your case, what you're going to do is you are going to put them right here on the fact table. So, for example, on the fact table that is before us, and by the way, what we're looking at right now is the Hawkins case, which is a case that comes with CaseMap that allows you to practice with a set of cases that, a set of facts, documents that are all fictitious, and of course we're not disclosing any sorts of privileges or confidential information by using this sample case, and that's why we're using it now. Okay, well, right open before us we have the fact table, and of course this shows the date and time. That column is critically important. The fact text is the heart of the fact table, which is the what happened, and then the source is of course critically important because facts without sources are useless. We want to make sure that we have good source information on all of our facts. Now, the other columns on this table really are optional, and I could hide them. Like, for example, whether this is a material fact. Again, that might be useful if I was getting ready to put together a motion for summary judgment, but I'm not going to do that now, so I'm going to hide that field. Status is disputed or undisputed. Again, important in analyzing what you might need to do by way of proving facts. Sometimes good to track, but I'm not going to talk about it now. Linked issues. Again, all facts should be related to an issue. And one way to see the issues to which facts are linked is by looking at this linked issue column. Another way is to simply open the issue linking window over here on the right side of CaseMap, and you can see that the issues are linked there. And the one, this is not linked to any issues, so there are no check marks over here on the right. In contrast, the record that follows it is checked off for wrongful termination. So you can see the issue either here on the right side of the issue pane or over here by looking at the linked issues column. And then finally, and we'll leave this open for now. Finally, the last column that is available to view in this particular configuration is the evaluation column. This allows you to give a thumbs up or a thumbs down or a neutral to all of the facts. So a lot of facts really are just kind of neutral. They just are. They don't really help your case. They don't really hurt your case, but they might put things into perspective. Obviously, some facts are good and some facts are bad, some worse than others. And that this evaluation field allows you to look at all the facts and evaluate them. So you can later do what we're going to do now, which is filter and sort to essentially see what you've got, to see the strengths and weaknesses of your case. Okay, well, since we're going to talk about using CaseMap to prepare chronologies, very simple to prepare just a basic case chronology from start to finish. What you do is you open up CaseMap's fact table. You make sure that you have the date time table on the column on the left, rather than over here. You have it on the far left. You include what other issues you want. If you just want a simple case chronology, you might hide the other columns and just leave the date, the time, the fact text, and the source information. You always want the source information. And then what do? Well, you sort it in ascending order, which means you're sorting it chronologically from the earliest date to the latest date. Of course, I can do it otherwise from the reverse chronological order if I wanted, but that's not the normal course of doing this. And once you've sorted it by date and time, and you have moved the column that you were sorting by into the far left hand of the table, then all you simply do is this. You just generate a report. And we have a report here that says fact chronology. And as we turn the page, there it is. Just the fields and the columns that we have we wanted to see. And now we can just look at our report and see what's going on in our case chronologically. Very simple. Now, that's just your basic report. Suppose you wanted a report on all issues. We're going to open up our issue field again, linked issues. If you wanted to generate a report to see all of the facts that you have on the issue of, let's say, wrongful termination, what you would do is come over here to the linked issues column, right click, and then hit filter by selection. What this does is leaves only those facts linked to the issue of wrongful termination. And now you can see what facts you have in your fact chronology that bear on that issue. Now, why would you want to do this? You might want to do this because you want to just see whether you need to do some additional discovery or you need to interview some additional witnesses. You might have enough already. You don't know what you have until you filter out all of the rest of the extraneous facts, and they're not necessarily extraneous, they just relate to other issues that you're not dealing with at the moment. And once you have all that's left is the wrongful termination records, you can look and see what you have. Now, if you also wanted to see what facts were good and what facts were bad on that issue, pretty simple. You just, we're going to go back and find that evaluation field, add it back. There it is. and then we can see all the facts, good and bad. Now, keep in mind we could continue to filter this further if we just wanted to see all the really bad facts that related to the issue of wrongful termination. We can use multiple layers of filters. Now, notice that since I've already got a filter in place, and I know it's a filter is in place because I can see that up here in the right-hand corner that the table is filtered and 6 of 29 records are visible. Now, once I decide that I want to add another filter, I've got some decisions to make. Does it want me to see, do you want to add them together so you can see all records that contain either wrongful termination or heavily against us? Do you want to show those records that have both, that are both heavily against us and in the wrongful termination, linked to wrongful termination? Or if you want to just start a new filter that is just going to be heavily against us, and it'll bring back in all of the other 29 records and then filter out only those that are heavily against us. Well, just for our purposes, we'll do the and. We're going to add this new layer in the filter and take out all of those wrongful termination facts that are not heavily against us. And let's see what happens. There it is. We've generated a report that shows these 3 facts bearing on the issue of wrongful termination that are heavily against us. Now, having done that, let's just, if we want to generate a report, we can do that. And we are going to want to see, this is not really a full fact chronology. So we're going to want to go into page setup, report options, and we're going to want to show this subtitle. How do we do that? We want to go into the title page, information and case information. We want to show the report subtitle. Now, the subtitle here is filter, linked to issues of wrongful termination and evaluation heavily against us. So we want to make sure that that appears on the title page. And, well, it doesn't allow us to add that. We could add it if we wanted to by editing comment. We could insert a field. We could add report. Well, it doesn't allow us to add a report subtitle, only the report title. Well, that's fine because you can see that it's going to appear on the second page. It's not just the fact chronology unfiltered, it's the fact chronology that contains filtered documents, that is, only those that are linked to wrongful termination and evaluation is heavily against us. Okay, well, that's just the, let's close out the filter. That's just a very basic manipulation of the fact table, one in which you have moved the sort by field to the far left hand of the table. You have filtered out whatever issues you don't want to see, or you have filtered out whatever other fields that you don't, characteristics that you don't want to see, leaving only those remaining documents, those remaining facts for you to view and then generate a report. And of course, once you generate a report, you could print it to PDF, you could print it to PDF and email. And again, by just doing those simple filtering and sorting of facts now as opposed to documents, you can get a pretty good handle on what you've got in your case. Now let's talk about a more advanced report creating functionality that is built right into CaseMap. And this is called report books. We've already talked about how it is you might want to sort and filter data so you can generate particular reports that deal with kind of an overall chronology, or that deal with a particular issue, or that deals with a particular evaluation. But CaseMap has, under the reports menu up here, has a functionality called report books. And report books, and actually a good interview of report books, or excuse me, a good overview of report books is set forth on the CaseMap website. So you can just click on that and see that if you'd like by going to Report Book, Report Books Overview. I would recommend that you go take a look at that because it will give you some more information on what it is we're talking about. But I'm just going to show you the basic functionality at this point. All right, so suppose I want to prepare a report book. Now, a report book is kind of a comprehensive overview of your case. It doesn't involve just printing out the fact table or just the document table or just the issues table, for example. But it's a comprehensive book of reports that relate to your entire case, your documents, your issues, your facts. So what you do is you go to Report Books, and the best one to take a look at to get a sense of this functionality is the case summary. And this is one that comes with CaseMap, that's built into CaseMap. And let's go to preview. All right, first of all, what it does is it generates this report called Case Report Book. It has gone and pulled information from all of your tables. Now, before that, it does have a statement of confidentiality because it presumes that you're going to send this out of your office, usually to your client, maybe your co-counsel or your associates. And again, we want to make sure that people understand that this is confidential. Now, the contents of the report book show that it is a comprehensive report of what you've done in your case and what information you've collected. It's got just an introduction as to, we'll see that in just a second, as to what a report book is. It goes on to give you a report of all the issues in the case, all the people and organizations in your case, the fact chronology, which is just a basic chronology, document index, open questions, and then if you're using the research authorities and extracts functionality, those functions. All right, next page, again, that's what we're going to see. Here's the introduction. This just gives the reader a quick overview of what is in the pages to follow, or what's contained in those pages. And then we have the issue outline. And you can see it's got the name of the issue, a description of the issue, and the number of facts linked to that issue. All of the people in the case, the name of the people, their role, their type, whether they're key, and the number of linked facts. Organizations, again, the name. The reason that there's a different table for organizations as opposed to people is because one organization may employ or have associated with it a number of different people. Now, we also have the fact chronology, which of course contains the basic fact information, the date and time, the fact text, the sources of that information, whether it's key, the status, and the linked issues. And this goes on for some pages. Then we have all the documents in the case. Again, you can see CaseMap is pulling all of the information that you've been entering on all of your tables and preparing this very comprehensive report. Now, of course, you have to collect and you have to keep all and post and keep all this data on your tables for CaseMap to be able to pull it from somewhere. But once it's there, these reports are generated automatically. Open questions, the question text, the due date for the question, who's assigned to it, and the status of that. Research authorities, if you were using the research functionality, these are all the cases and statutes that you've pulled that relate to the case. All right, again, very, very important and comprehensive overview of your case. Now note that this is highly customizable. I've created my own case summary that I use in my cases. It's called DSC, Dana Celiano Case Summary. And just so you can see, I did spend a good bit of time modifying the format. Like, for example, I have made my report in portrait format. I have kind of changed the statement of confidentiality a little bit and put some contact information on this first page. I have, again, I haven't really changed that much. I've changed kind of the introduction a little bit to explain what this is. And that this is not polished work product. This is a tool to organize and analyze information related to our investigation. And as that analysis process continues, the information in these reports will change. As you review these reports, it's highly likely that you'll see inaccuracies. You may also think of important information that's not included. In either case, please let me know. Mark up the report book and send it back. Now, see, this introduction is written in such a way that it assumes that this report book is going to be sent usually to a client. So the client can see what the status of the investigation is and what the status of document gathering and fact mining is. I also have the basic chronology, and notice that I've picked which fields to include. I use the date and time field, fact text field, linked issues field, cast of characters, full name, role in case, number of linked facts, organizations, document index. Now I've made this a little shorter. I just include the date of the document, the full name, the short name, which is the Bates beginning number, and the number of pages. I haven't cluttered it with as much information as the report that CaseMap includes. I've got just a very basic issue outline with the full name of the issue and the number of linked facts. And then I've got open questions. And again, I haven't included as much information on my version of this report as in the version that CaseMap comes with. I only have the question text, who it's been assigned to, and its criticality. Now, how do you generate your own custom reports? Well, what you do is you come here and you go to Manage Report Books. You open it up, and you can open up Case Summary, and you could, for example, make a copy of it, and it says Copy of Case Summary, and then you can modify that any way you'd like by including what topics, what you want on the title page, whether you want a confidentiality statement, again, and which reports you want to include within the report book. Very highly customizable, and then you can just rename it whatever you'd like, and we can call it my report book. You know, whatever you'd like. There it is, my report book. And then again, I was just showing you this. I'm going to delete this so I don't have it. But that shows you how you can function. You can make a highly customized report. Last point, you can do other report. There are other reports that are baked in here. Like for example, what's new in the last 14 days. If you want to, well, I go back up to reports, report books, what's new in the last 14 days, preview. Nothing. There's nothing in here that's new. So again, if you just wanted to show your client what developments what progress had been made in the case, that might be a way to do it. Mark Me Up, again, another version of this. It's got a kind of a different introduction, asking the recipient to check things for accuracy, fill in blanks, what's missing, etc. Again, another very good report that's baked in to CaseMap, and one that if you wanted to start with making your own customized report book, you might start there. Okay, well that's report books. Very powerful and a very convenient and comprehensive way to see what you have, and not only for you to see what you have, but also to share the information in your CaseMap file with your clients and with others. Let's now talk about the use of CaseMap's filtering and sorting functionalities for one particular use, namely to get ready for a deposition or a witness examination, a cross-examination, or a direct examination. Now, the reason why this is important, obviously, we understand that CaseMap is simply a tool. We use CaseMap to help us get ready for our cases, to have all of the information and documents that we need to examine witnesses, to make arguments. This is really where the rubber meets the road with CaseMap. This is where you are going to get yourself ready to do what you do as a lawyer, at least one of the things that you do, which is to go to a deposition and ask a witness some questions, and not just to kind of wallow around in a disorganized fashion, but to do an effective deposition, one that is going to set the witness up for a trial examination or make the case ready for summary judgment. Whatever it is, you want to go to the deposition prepared, and CaseMap is here to prepare you. Now, much the same could be said about how you would go about preparing for a cross-examination or a witness examination. Okay, well, that having been said, let us now prepare for the examination of the plaintiff. You're the defense lawyer. Your company has been sued in some sort of employment discrimination case, and you are preparing for the deposition of Philip Hawkins. Well, what would you do to prepare for this deposition? Obviously, one of the things that you're going to do is you're going to want to see all of the facts that Mr. Hawkins is referenced in. And you also want to see and probably use, or at least consider using in the deposition, all of the documents that Mr. Hawkins is the author of or otherwise mentioned in. All right, so how would you do that? Well, there really are, you can do the same exercise 3 different ways. One way is to come to where we are now, which is the persons table, find Mr. Hawkins. If we want to find all of the facts linked to him, we can go to the number of facts. These are all facts linked to Mr. Hawkins. Now, of course, remember how the facts are linked to Mr. Hawkins. Once you start typing his name in that field, it auto-completes his name and then auto-links it to the persons table. So what would you do here? You would go to the Philip Hawkins name on the persons table, come to the number of facts, click on this, and now what we have is a subtable of all of the facts that mention Mr. Hawkins. And you can see Mr. Hawkins' name is mentioned here, right? Because it's his name underlined. There he is again. And we're not going to find any facts that don't have Philip Hawkins in them. Why? Because we have essentially, by going to the fact table, looking at the number of facts mentioning Mr. Hawkins, opening up that subtable, there we have it. So what could I do now? Well, I could print it out. This is 24 facts linked to Philip Hawkins. I could print out a hard copy. I can make this a PDF file, and I'll use this to sit down and make a mind map of the outline of my examination of Philip Hawkins, whether it's to prepare for a deposition examination or the cross-examination of Mr. Hawkins. Now, the question you might ask is, am I going to do the examination directly from the report from CaseMap? Well, I might, but generally I'm going to take this, particularly if it's for trial. If it's for a deposition, I might simply use this. I might, for example, have this in front of me while he is sitting across the table with a court reporter there, and I might say, well, Mr. Hawkins, when did you first meet William Lang? And he might go on and talk about when he first met William Lang. And then I would ask him about the circumstances under which Mr. Lang invited you to visit Anstar Biotech Industries. Again, this is in chronological order, and that might be the best way to do the deposition. I mean, it certainly, almost certainly wouldn't be the best way to do a direct or a cross-examination. Those are going to be organized really by issue more than by chronology. But for a deposition, sometimes it makes sense. And again, you might have tactical reasons for doing it otherwise. But for a deposition, it often makes sense just to start at the beginning and have the witness tell the story about all of those facts from start to finish. And having all of the facts that you know about him that are related to his case in front of you is one way to do that. And you've done that essentially by generating this subtable from the persons table. Now you could also do the same thing with documents. These are all the documents that he's authored. And again, you can do the same kind of thing, 24 documents authored. You're going to want to think about all of these documents, and decide which ones you might want to use during the deposition and which ones you're going to ask him questions about. All right, well, that's one way to generate this report, is from the persons table. Another way is to go to the fact table, find Phil Hawkins, there he is, filter by selection, and there we have it. Same number, right? 24 records out of 29, all linked to him. We could generate a report, fact chronology, and again, facts linked to Philip Hawkins, and there we have it, just those facts, none others. The last way to do this same exercise, which is to see just the facts that relate to a particular issue, or just the documents, all the facts that relate to a particular person, or all the documents that relate to a particular person is to go back to report books. We've discussed report books in an earlier segment of this lecture, but note that there's one that's entitled, let's see, Facts and Documents Grouped by Person. Now, this is going to show us everything that we have. Well, let's take a look at what it does. And again, this is one of these report books that is baked into CaseMap. Let's see what it shows us. All right, well, here it is. It shows that it's a case report book. And what it says, we've got, here are our people, facts grouped by person. These are all the facts that Linda Collins has shown up in. These are all the facts that Randy Fosheim has shown up in. Philip Hawkins, again, these are all the facts that he has shown up in. William Lang, George Nye, Susan Sheridan, and these are all the documents that are linked to either Linda Collins, Philip Hawkins. Now, note in order to print out this comprehensive report, you're going to have to collect a lot of information, like who the author of the documents of each document that you put into CaseMap was, who the recipient was, who was copied. You know, again, I generally don't do this. I generally use the document table and all the document fields just to collect basic name, rank, and serial number information about each document. And when I mine the document for information, at that point, I'm going to spend some time pulling out the names. So I generally I'm going to get to all the important documents and important facts through the fact table, rather than running a search within the document table by searching for authors, recipients, and whatnot. That's just my practice. There are people who want to have that information in the document table, and there's nothing wrong with that. It just takes it's just time consuming. If you have a document intensive case, to spend a lot of time logging authors, recipients, and then recipients via CC or BCC. Again, you have to record that information in order for this report to be meaningful, but CaseMap does it for you right here in the report book functionality. Okay, well, those are three different ways to generate the same reports, right? One, you can generate it from within the persons table by going to the number of reference facts and opening up a small subtable and then printing that. You can get the same information by going to the fact table, finding the person who you want to filter for, filter by selection. We'll start a new filter, and there we're back to 24 facts tagged to Philip Hawkins. And there we have fact chronology linked to Philip Hawkins. And then last, we can do it through the report book by saying facts grouped by person. And here we can find all of the facts linked to Philip Hawkins, all those facts grouped by him. Now, as I said, CaseMap is a tool. It's not going to do your examinations for you. It is going to make it easier and make you a better, easier to prepare and a better prepared lawyer by having all of the documents, all of the facts related to a particular person right there with you while you are preparing your outline. Now again, and this is my closing point here, you could do the examination, particularly in a deposition, or perhaps even a direct examination, but unlikely a cross, straight from the CaseMap tables. It's filtered tables that you're going to produce, but it's far better and far more elegant by way of organization to take the information from these filtered and sorted CaseMap tables and to prepare your own outline using some hierarchical method of organization. Of course, I use mind mapping, and then to do your examination off of the mind map rather than off of the CaseMap table. Let's now talk about using CaseMap to write a brief. Well, when you have to write a brief, obviously you are going to write the brief in a way that is logical, that appears to have some organization to it. And usually it's going to have a hierarchical structure. For example, the brief might first address issues of liability and negligence and causation, those sorts of things. And then it might have a discussion of damages, for example. Because of those, the way that you would organize a brief, well, at least hopefully the way you would organize a brief in a way that's logical, CaseMap can be very useful. And how can it be useful? Well, because all of the facts and documents, exhibits that you're going to use to write your brief are going to be in CaseMap. So what you want to do here is you want to go to Issues. And what you ought to do, of course, is you ought to make sure that CaseMap has its issues arranged in a hierarchical format. And by hierarchical, I mean just like this. Age discrimination, retaliation, and then the sub issues under that, transfer, demotion, etc. Those, I think, are useful because what they do is allow you to have one section and one subsection for each section and subsection in your brief. What you'll do is you'll make sure that you have the same issues that you're going to address in the brief in different sections of the brief right here in your issues table. Then you're going to go to the fact table and make sure that you have tagged all of the facts. Each fact should be tagged to some issue, and you can see the issue hierarchy over here on the right. Now, one thing that I usually want to do is I want to see this, the full names of the issues rather than the short names. And I've just toggled between display full name, display partial name. So now when I get ready to write the age discrimination portion of the brief, all I'm going to do is do what we've talked about in the other segments of this lecture. We're going to filter and look at only those facts bearing on age discrimination. How do we do that? Again, there are 3 different ways you can do it. You can do it from the fact table by right-clicking and filtering by selection. And that's what we'll do here. We'll start a new filter. And I want to include the sub-issues as well. And here we have just all of the facts linked to age discrimination. So what I'll want to do now is I'm going to write the portion of the brief that deals with age discrimination. And I can see all of the facts that I need to include in that portion of the discussion. Of course, there are other ways that I can do this. I can go to the issue table. I can look for the number of facts linked to age discrimination. And there we have another way to get at the same information. Second way. The third way is using the report book functionality. I can see the facts, docs, and law grouped by issue. I can do that. It generates this report. And here are all the issues that relate to age discrimination, all the ones that are Hawkins specific. So again, CaseMap is very powerful. As long as you're tagging all of your facts to issues, then you can make sure that you can filter away all of the other unrelated issues, focus just on that portion of the brief, and write the brief. Now, that's all the facts that are in CaseMap. Keep in mind that you will also have, in addition to the facts that are in the fact table that are derived from documents, you'll often have facts that are sourced to transcripts and depositions. Well, this is where TextMap comes in. TextMap is a very useful corollary program to CaseMap. And what it does is it manages the transcripts. And they could be transcripts from a trial. If you're writing an appellate brief, that's generally what you're going to be working from, is a trial transcript. It could be transcripts from depositions, and that's what we have here. Could also be interview notes and also videotape depositions. It's how it's that powerful where you can see that. Now, you can see here as you read through the documents, read through the, well, let me back up. This is what I do. if it comes time to write an appellate brief, and I've got in front of me all of my exhibits, I've got those in CaseMap, and I have tagged them to the facts in the fact table. I also need to mine the transcript. In the transcript, if it's a one-day trial, it's going to be 200-300 pages. I'll read the whole transcript, and as I'm reading, I will highlight. And as I highlight, I will send the fact to CaseMap. And once I send it to CaseMap, I'm going to link it to an issue. I can do that down here. If I want to link it to age discrimination, for example, I do that. It's highlighted here, and it's now been sent to CaseMap. Now I'll do this throughout the whole transcript, all the transcripts, start to finish. Then when I'm done, I have mined the trial transcript for useful information. I'll then go back to CaseMap and look at the facts. Now note that this is the fact that I just brought over. I tagged it to age discrimination. It's got a linked issue. It's got its source, so if I want to go see it, I can just double click on this and it's going to pop up in the transcript. But the nice thing is now when I'm writing the portion of the brief on age discrimination, it's going to be included in there. So this is incredibly powerful when you're writing a brief using CaseMap. Why? Because you can then have before you in your fact table all of the transcript excerpts related to an issue, all of the facts that you've otherwise tagged to documents, for example, which would be exhibits in this hypothetical, tagged to issues. All of that would make it very, very powerful to write an effective brief. Now, also keep in mind that briefs contain not just facts, but law. Facts and the law are the yin and the yang of legal analysis. And CaseMap does have the functionality in its research table to keep track of law. Now, this is not one that I use a lot. I should probably use it more often. And I think I will start using it more often. It allows you to keep track of the authorities that you've researched, kind of for not only for purposes of a research trail so you don't redo the research you do, but also because you can tag them to issues. And when it comes time to write your brief, you can look at all of the law that relates to a particular issue and make sure that you've got the legal discussion in that portion of the brief as well. Now also note that you've got linked documents. They can be linked both to PDF documents. For example, if we open up this case, there's the case. It's just a sample. It doesn't have the case actually there, but these are linked to online. Okay, well that's not working. Assuming you have a LexisNexis account, this would log you into LexisNexis. Once you're logged in into the account, then and I'm not going to do it, but it does allow you to log into LexisNexis and gives you the ability to see actually the source document. Well, now of course you're going to wind up extracting, and these are extracts, for example, that the good language from the case or the good the actual language from the statute or something that's relevant to your case, and again, all linked to issues. The point is that when you are getting ready to write a brief, particularly an appellate brief, CaseMap is invaluable. You're going to want to make sure that you have all of the facts relevant to that brief in the fact table, and whether they've gotten there because you've mined them from exhibits or you've mined them from the transcripts, that doesn't really matter. They're there, and they're tagged to an issue. You filter out all of the other issues other than the one you're working on, and then you look and see what facts you have related to that issue, and you look at all the law that you have in the authorities and extracts from authorities table to see what law you have, and then you write. Unfortunately, CaseMap will not write your brief for you. You are going to have to do that yourself, but it does get before you only those facts and law excerpts that you need for that particular portion of the brief. It does put blinders on you temporarily so you can focus, write, and get your job done.